are now listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation. Your host, Ben Worthington.
IELTS speaking vocabulary about books, film and art. In this tutorial, we're going to look at the unique vocabulary that you're going to encounter if you get a question about books, film or art. And we're going to look at some model answers, a typical cue card, and again, typical part 3 questions. Before we start, I'll share with you the definitions. But before we even get into this week's tutorial, let me just tell you about our online courses. We're getting great results from these. The students are passing, and not only the IELTS Speaking Confidence course, but also the very popular and our best-selling Jump to Band 7 or its free online writing course. With this writing course, you watch tutorials, you send in your essays, we give you feedback, you watch more tutorials. These tutorials cover anything from the framework, from common sentences, from even exercises that we ask you to do. And when you send in your essay, we'll get it back to you within 24 hours and we'll give you feedback not only on your essay, not only on your writing, on your grammar, on your vocabulary, but also on whether you have, performed the paragraph as we requested in the tutorial. So it's not a case of just getting the tutorials and writing. You're going to get the feedback on them. And then with this method, we found it's the best and fastest way to improve. And that's why we're able to release, or record episodes with successful students because they've gone through the process, they've gone through the system, and they've come out writing very coherent, high-scoring essays. So let's jump in to today's lesson. Speaking vocabulary about books, films and art. So remember, part 1 questions going to be to warm you up, to help you get comfortable. You don't want to give one-word answers. Neither do you want to go all out with your conditionals and all of this. You're just aiming for natural language. Save your conditionals, your speculation, all the advanced speaking features for later on in the exam. This is just getting warmed up. So, typical question. Do you enjoy reading for pleasure? Typical answer. Yes, I do, but I admit that with all my studies right now, I don't have a lot of time to curl up with a book. When I do, for example, on holiday, I love thrillers or action books with a strong plot line, which I can read cover to cover in a few hours. Key vocabulary there, curl up with a book, a nice little collocation. Other vocabulary, thrillers, action books, plot line, a strong plot line. Read cover to cover. That's like when you devour, when you go really fast. Next question. Would you rather watch a film or read in your free time? Oh, I would far rather distract myself with a rom-com movie than read, as by the time I get home from work, I am shattered. I know movies leave less to the imagination than books. However, I do sometimes watch films which have been adapted from fiction. For example, Emma by Jane Austen, which gave me an insight into strong characterization and main themes. Great vocabulary there. Rom-com movie. What's rom-com? Romantic comedy. Rom-com movie. Adapted from fiction. Strong characterization. Key vocabulary that helps you boost your score, but also helps you describe what you're talking about. Part 2 question, cue card. Describe a book or a film that had a strong impact on you. You should say what was it, when you read or saw it, how it influenced you, and say if you liked it and why. Okay, again, Describe a book or a film that had a strong impact on you. What it was, when you saw or read it, how it influenced you, why you liked it. If you liked it and why you liked it. Let's go. When I used to live in Paris as a teenager, I became rather obsessed with watching what might be called artistic French films. My favourite was called Paris at Midnight, which was directed by Louis Truffaut. Often he filmed in black and white and told a rather dark story. The genre could be described as black humour or drama, I suppose. While many of my friends were happily absorbed in the latest James Bond movie or other rather commercial blockbusters, I took pride in educating myself in the traditions of the French cinema and trying to learn a bit of French at the same time. This film in particular had a lasting impression on me. I think in fact it had been adapted from a bestseller, and since it has inspired other cartoon spin-offs and series as well. The beautiful, mysterious heroine was both provocative and enchanting. It was impossible to predict how she would react in a situation, which kept the tension in the film very high. Added to this was a haunting musical score, written by a famous French musician, and this also became a top-selling album in the charts. This film, and others like it, inspired me to work harder on my French language skills and to really investigate the history and culture of Paris in greater depth. At the time, I would have said that I enjoyed it, but in hindsight, I think it was probably not a very relaxing watch, and today I would opt for something less intellectual. Okay, all of the bullet points covered there, quite straightforward. Key vocabulary: directed by, black and white. He filmed in black and white. The genre, a French word there, genre, G-E-N-R-E, the genre. Black humor, commercial blockbusters, lasting impression, adapted from. The Lord of the Rings was adapted from a book. Provocative and enchanting. Excellent adjectives there that you do not hear in an average conversation. And remember, this is not an average conversation. This is like a job interview. We want to impress the examiner with our lexical resource. So we're going and looking for those higher level adjectives, higher level phrases, higher level terms, collocations. Haunting musical score. How good is that? Added to this was a haunting musical score written by a famous French musician. It just means like spooky music. But haunting musical score is so much more eloquent, so much more educated. Inspired me too. So there we go. If you liked it and why. So I'm not saying, I'm explicitly saying I like it, but I'm adding to that. I'm saying it inspired me too. And this brings me to an important point, which is like developing your answer. Why do you like it? You didn't say, I really, really, really like it. That's, there's not telling much there. There's not much colour in that answer. But if you say why you liked it, well, it inspired me to work harder. It inspired me. It's so much richer. Let's move on to speaking part 3. Do you think people go to the cinema as much as they used to? No. There has been a sea change in the way people choose to view films nowadays, which has been reinforced by the recent pandemic when cinemas and theatres were closed. Even before this disaster, many filmgoers had the option to pay for online streaming of the latest releases via the internet, so they could enjoy the thrills of the cinema but without leaving their sofas. Companies like Netflix and Amazon have led the way in this new trend and now commission films and drama series of their own. Great vocabulary again. Filmgoers. Sea change. Sea change is quite versatile. It just means like a big dramatic overhaul, a big dramatic change, sea change. Online streaming, commission films. all of this is topic-specific vocabulary. Remember as well, in part 3, the examiner's got 3 sets of questions. The first set is going to be quite standard, like what are questions? They might develop onto opinions, deciding between choices. And then sets 2 and 3 are slightly more sophisticated. We're talking about change. We're talking about the future. We could be talking about the benefits or the drawbacks. We're also going to be possibly given hypotheses. Should films try to solve issues in society? You've got to give a whole hypothesis for that answer. So the further you get into part 3, assuming you're not making that many mistakes and you're holding it together, the further you get into part 3, the more difficult the questions are going to get. Now, solid grammar and extensive lexical resource, ideally topic-specific vocabulary, are going to get you to around band 7. However, to get beyond there, you're going to need like complex grammatical structures and very accurate use of the English language. Hardly any grammar mistakes, and almost actually beyond accurate use. You want to be going for more sophisticated phrases. And we've done podcasts about this, and we'll be releasing more podcasts about this specifically. But as I said, the further you get into part 3, we're going to be looking at hypotheses, benefits and drawbacks, the future, changes, almost like IELTS writing part 2. Next question anyway, in part 3. Should art still play a role in education for students at school, as well as books and films? You see, with these questions, you've got to hold a lot of information in your head. Should art still play a role in education for students at school, as well as books and films? Now, in the Speaking Confidence course, we give you techniques on how to answer these, how to basically paraphrase, how to repeat back the question so you don't really forget what was asked about you. And this alone will help you answer on topic. So some great techniques in that Speaking Confidence course. Let's answer this question. Should art still play a role in education for students at school, as well as books and films? It is true that for many young adults and school children, art is not part of their usual education, and they are only able to assess an understanding of great historic and influential paintings if they study art. Many educators argue that art should play as big a role as the appreciation of books or film in the curriculum, as art offers an equally valid perspective on a country's cultural background and heritage. Okay, some great vocabulary there as well. And credit to this model answer. It has managed to fulfill the actual question, which I thought was a little bit tricky because it was a long question, and also it was kind of hypothetical as well. So we did get a conditional there in the answer. Anyway, let's have a look at the vocabulary. Historic and influential paintings. Beautiful vocabulary. Appreciation of books or film. It's like we were saying before. Like, we could say people like books and films. That's average. But if we say the appreciation of books or film, that's like higher level. Other great vocabulary in this answer. Equally valid perspective. A cultural background and heritage. Now, don't worry if you're not getting all of this vocabulary. I've got a list which I can go through at the end of this tutorial. What do you think about ebooks? It's quite a straightforward question. Probably more likely to find it at the beginning of part 3 as we are warming up. And then the further we get into the test, especially in part 3, the more difficult the questions are going to be. What do you think about ebooks? in my opinion, paperback or hardback books are much better, and reading a book from an e-reader just doesn't feel the same for me. Many readers value the sensation of turning pages and that special smell of paper. I think that the look and feel of a book can never be replaced by an e-reader, but I understand the usefulness of electronic books. It is very convenient to be able to carry hundreds of books in your pocket, especially when travelling or studying. Right, vocabulary there. Paperback, hardback, e-reader. Wasn't much else there. Or turning pages, maybe. A sensation of turning pages, slightly more elegant, slightly more advanced. Yeah. So with this answer, actually, I'm struggling now. And I'll tell you why I'm struggling, because I disagree with this answer. But this brings me to an important point. It's like our task 2. It doesn't really matter that much about what you say, especially in the writing. It just has to be clear. This is a language test, not a test of intelligence. It just has to be clear, has to be communicated without errors. That's the main point. So I'm kind of tripping over myself here because I'm a big believer in ebooks, and I think ebooks are fantastic because, I'm on the beach, I finish my book, I can move on to the next book. I'm reading in Spanish, I can just tap the word and I get a definition, and that definition is saved then in a collection of words that I've asked for definitions for. I can make notes. If I lose my book at the train station or whatever, it's all backed up, including my notes, and it's all in the cloud. So, but anyway, I'm not getting tested about my knowledge or my fanboy association with ebooks. This is not the point of the test. The point of the test is to communicate clear. And that first answer answered the question effectively. It was relatively rich. There wasn't any, there wasn't any errors in there. And it also gave both sides to the story, to the issue as well. And yeah, the examiner didn't want to know, he didn't want an education about ebooks. That's all. He just wanted to know my opinion. And I gave him 2 opinions there. The one from what I was reading, and then my own personal opinion. But of course, you're just going to give your own opinion. Let's move on. Definitions. Let's have a look at the vocabulary that we covered. Again, curl up with the book just to get comfortable with it. Thrillers or action books, rom-com movies. These are all different types of books and films. Thrillers are obviously those super exciting ones. A strong plot line. A strong plot line. This is like a good story which keeps moving, that keeps you gripped to it. Cover to cover, from start to finish. The front cover, from the front cover to the back cover. Adapted from fiction. A film which was first a fictional book. Or adapted from a book. Adapted from a bestseller. Strong characterization. This is where the people, the actors, or the characters in the books, they've got kind of like believable characteristics, believable personalities, and kind of well-rounded. Recommended to me by a friend. Nice little almost collocation there. Obviously somebody recommended it. Black humour. It's kind of dark, mysterious, possibly as well. I think the English and my Northern European friends, definitely. My Spanish friends think I'm weird when I drop some and I try to be funny using black humour. Anyway, genre, the type of film. Commercial blockbuster films, like the DC franchise, the Marvel comics, the American ones usually, mass market films for profit, basically. A sea change in something. This is like a fundamental shift. And then online streaming, self-explanatory. To commission a film is basically to ask for one to be made. Cultural heritage. the background and history of a country. Now, the useful adjectives here, I much prefer these adjectives because we can use the adjectives are much more universal, they're much more versatile, much more valuable because we can use them to describe people, places, locations. We can use them in other topics of the IELTS speaking test. So we can say provocative. My brother is quite provocative. Enchanting, like interesting in a mysterious, mystique way. Haunting, spooky. Captivating is like very interesting, almost gripping. Compelling, very similar to captivating. Surprisingly comprehensible. Now I could use these all these adjectives to talk about people. Yeah? My brother, despite his thick accent, is surprisingly comprehensible. My English teacher at school always told captivating, compelling stories, even though her manner of dress was kind of haunting. Also, I think she had a provocative streak. So it's definitely a good idea to brush up on your adjectives. How much richer are these than good and bad? Oof. So brush up on your adjectives. And that brings us to the end of today's class. And if you are still struggling with your speaking or with your writing, please get in contact with IELTSPodcast.com. When you sign up to our newsletter, you'll get some special offers there where you can get coupons and discount coupons for your IELTS preparation. And remember, you're not alone in this. You've got myself, maybe you got Rob, maybe you got Ellen. Our team are here to help you pass the exam. And just one last thing, actually. Maybe you're taking the IELTS exam to get to England, or to stay in England, or to get to Australia, or to study in Canada. Whatever it is, like being an immigrant and speaking a foreign language, I can totally relate with. I've been an immigrant for the last 20 years of my life now. I've lived outside of England. And I think immigrants, they've got a kind of like, immigrants are expats. The distinction is ridiculous, but it's pointless. But anyway, I really do believe like immigrants, expats, whatever you want to call them, kind of got this a bit more of a fight. We decided to make our life better. We decided to take the tough route. And as I said in previous episodes, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I think moving around and having the hunger to go abroad and to put yourself out there, to learn somebody else's language, it only materializes in strength. And keep that strength and use it. And, dig deep inside and find that strength. Find that decision, what made you go abroad, and use it to get your IELTS exam, and you will get there in the end. And we're here to help you get there. So that's it from me. Have a great day, and I wish you all the best with your IELTS preparation. Take care.
Thanks for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.